Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and yet another book review. After all, we do one or two per year, so it's about that time, and we've been putting this one off for a little while. So this week, we're diving headfirst into Master of Evil, which is a novel that came out last year in the fall, written by Adam Christopher. And we have a few friends joining us tonight for that chat. And I'm really looking forward to just kind of getting into that and having our special guest join us once again, which we'll introduce you in a moment. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
All right, welcome back. We've got Dr. Steve Ellerhoff joining us tonight. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's always good to have you back. And also, just as we started up, we got Matt joining us as well. Hello there, Matt.
Oh, I made it.
Hello. Yeah, just made it in just in the nick of time.
Hyper jump.
Yeah. And we will have our co-host Blake joining us tonight as well in a few moments. Ran into some trouble on the way, so we'll just get started. But it's been a little while since we had you on, Steve. So maybe just for anyone who is new to the podcast, just to maybe reintroduce yourself and kind of maybe I don't know, like what's your favorite Star Wars movie and just let's start with that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Steve Ellerhoff. I'm a scholar of literature, and I've written a book, Jung in Star Wars: A Contemporary Mythology. And I've got a fledgling podcast now that has one whole episode out called May the Force Be With Jung, which is sort of a Star Wars and Jung podcast.
Nice.
But my favorite Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi, the first one I saw in the cinema.
Oh, awesome.
So,
Yeah, represent.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And for that podcast, we'll put the links down in the description below if you're able to send those to me.
Cool.
Just for anyone who's curious, like what kind of content would yours cover? Like what, I don't know, man, I'm not a huge fan of the word content, but what kind of subject material do you guys go over?
Yeah, it's going to be looking at more about the mythology of Star Wars and then using Jungian psychology to explore that. Kind of what I do in the book that I published. And then I'm going to have guests on as well who are people I've known for a long time or people, I don't know very well. And just explore different mythological relationships people have to Star Wars. So I'm really interested in, after I wrote the book, is like a lonely endeavor, but I'd like to hear from other people who have ideas about these things too,
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. Well, we'll put links to all that stuff down in the description. And for anyone interested in listening to the one or two episodes that we've had Steve on in the past, definitely look for those links as well down below. Without further ado, let's bring on our co-host for tonight because he is joining us from the comm link here. He's coming in as a hologram. All right, Blake, can you hear us, sir?
Obi-Wan, you must patch me through to the temple. What did you say?
These are dark times.
I'm sorry, I dialed the wrong number.
I don't remember calling Pizza Planet. What is this?
Right?
Yeah.
We need an express delivery. Pronto.
Yeah. All right, so here we are. Well, this is like I don't know if you missed it there, Blake, but I was saying we do about 1 or 2 book reviews a year. This is
That's about all we can manage.
This is about all we can manage. Yeah, we're pretty slow readers around here, so. But yeah, I mean, here it is. Finally,
my wife told me I'm reading at an 8th grade level.
No, wow, really? You're just a little ahead of me then.
Doing better than pretty much all of America. So good job.
Oh dear.
Oh man.
Well, I managed to get through this one, so that's good. And I enjoyed it quite a lot, so I'm excited to get into this.
For sure. But I'll start off just before we get into the book. It's actually, we haven't had Matt or Steve on since we've seen The Mandalorian and Grogu. So, we'll start off with you, Matt. I know you did send me like a little 2 cents, but how did you like the movie?
I liked it. I mean, there's a lot of action. I think it was lacking a little bit in story, a little bit.
All right.
It wasn't as dramatic as, say, like Andor, but totally loved it. Of course, I loved it. And the Grogu sequence maybe seemed a little long, but I did like the moral. It was cool that the older take care of the younger, and the younger take care of the older. This is the way.
Yeah.
And as simple as that is, I was with a whole theater full of kids, and all the kids.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Yeah,
I was telling my kids, that's the way. Take care of your dad. No, but
yeah.
When I'm old and retired, you'll be paying for me.
Exactly. Like, yeah. So that was cool. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It did seem like it was season 4 edited together as a film. And I think it could have been a little bit more cinematic.
Okay.
In the storytelling for sure, right? And then like maybe give it a little bit more of a budget.
So
it seemed a little low budget, a little bit at times. But besides that, I absolutely loved it. And
how was the audience? Like, what was the room like when you watched it with like a large group of people? Like,
we were at like the 11 o'clock show when it opened. And we got like a cool Star Wars card, like a Grogu card.
Okay.
And, but the vibe of it was people were kind of quiet. I don't know if it was just like the younger generation or they're just tired. But then there was like the other half of the theater of us that had families and kids and wearing our Star Wars shirts, and everyone's like cheering and clapping and having a good time.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. All right. So,
it was an overall good experience. Yeah.
How many Pablo points and poodoos would you give it?
Let's see, 3. But, I didn't even hear what you guys said, so I'm going in blind. I have no idea what you guys said. So, probably like a 2.5, maybe.
2.5. Okay. So,
pretty good.
Like you really liked it. Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
All right. Okay.
I mean, as far as like a family film and a film you can take your kids to, and in Star Wars and have fun and get the family going. And then I must say, a couple days later, they installed the film at into the Millennium Falcon. So on Memorial Day, I went to the park, Galaxy's Edge, and every time Darth Vader was supposed to be out there, he wasn't out there, so that was kind of disappointing a little bit. But we were excited. They moved, so Darth Vader comes out of Kylo Ren's ship, and now Kylo Ren has been like banished to the other side of Tomorrowland, where Darth Vader used to be.
That's pretty funny.
And you have to wait, and Kylo's like not even in the Tomorrowland like Space Mountain area. He's up in like the old Innovations.
Oh man, he got demoted hard.
Yeah, he got demoted. Demoted hard in the space launch like area where no one even knows where that is.
Yeah. Well,
boy, get out of here. Grandpa's back.
Yeah, people got sick of his tantrums. So they're like, you know what?
I sent you some.
You're going to Tomorrowland.
I must say the Millennium Falcon, awesome. Like the new film in there is so sick. And having Mando like talk to you, and then Grogu comes in like in the pre-show before you load in.
Oh, okay.
Once you go in, my kids loved it that Grogu's talking, and then Grogu's messing things up, and then like we lost power in the Falcon, and then the Razor Crest cuts in front of you, and the door opens, and you're like, "What? Are we supposed to drive into the Razor Crest?" And then there was a little hand, and then he uses the Force to save us. It was awesome. Like the kids, we had the best time ever. It was so much fun. And then
that's cool.
So it was like a complete Star Wars experience. And then out in the front, I sent you some videos.
Yeah.
The Chewbacca was going around the crowd and picking out all the dads in front of the Falcon, and teen dads lined up, and then he made us all battle each other in like a Wookiee cry. Wookiee cry. The crazy thing is, I won.
What?
Yeah, I won. It was awesome.
job.
Nice job.
Oh man,
yeah.
you're the best Wookiee dad in town.
Yeah,
Cool.
Like,
What'd you
Star Wars
win?
Escape pod? No, just kidding.
Oh, here, let's hold on. Like, I got it up here. I got the video. Let me take a quick audio
People
bite
cheering.
here. That's Matt with the Chewie impression.
I was hoarse. Like the rest of the day.
Yeah,
That's pretty
Sean
funny.
was laughing so hard. Yeah.
that's so good. I like this. I'll take a full look through these photos later. But yeah, thanks for that, Matt. All right, awesome. Yeah, Steve, what did you think about the Mandalorian and Grogu?
Oh, I loved it. I had so much fun. It was I didn't go opening night. It was the first Star Wars I haven't been to opening night in a long time. I think since the special edition of Return of the Jedi, I didn't see that. So yeah, so I've been to the opening night of every other film except this one. And I waited till Monday, and it was a holiday here, and went to a matinee and had a great time. And yeah, they had Screen X. Have you done the Screen X?
I have with Ant-Man 3. I wasn't like the biggest fan of Screen X. Like I found
explaining what it is.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's like peripheral vision screens on either side of the room at a lower resolution, and kind of like almost like you're in a spaceship looking out, like a wraparound visor type thing. Like it's interesting. Like I some movies would work pretty well with it, I think, but for me, the movie that I saw, at least, I found myself almost like looking at those screens
Distracted
too much through the movie.
Yeah.
So how did you like it then? Like, how did you like it with this movie?
Yeah, well, and it was my first time ever experiencing it. So at first I found it super distracting. And then I just melded into it and just didn't care anymore. So it was kind of fun on chases and space flights and stuff like that. And but it did feel gimmicky, you know.
Yeah, I think it's because it's not consistent, right? Like it's only like on for like maybe 20% of the film, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be very distracting. It's flashing on and off.
Yeah, they do their best to kind of like, you know, fade it in and out and stuff, but it's still distracting. Yeah.
Right.
It still breaks that, you know, you can really get engrossed just looking at a flat screen. I mean, we know that.
Yeah, for sure.
The art of cinema has proven that for over 100 years. But yeah, to get that peripheral vision, it did sort of disrupt that a little bit, but it was still fun. But I really enjoyed it. Had a great time.
So how many Pablo points and poodoos would you give this movie?
What's the top end of these?
Three Pablo poodoos is the worst of the worst, and then you get 2 Pablo poodoos, 1 Pablo poodoo, and then a bendu, which is 50%, and then you have 1 Pablo point, 2 Pablo points, and 3 Pablo points is the best of the best, and we do allow 0.5s in between all those intervals as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say at least 2 Pablo points.
All right.
Yeah, at least, and maybe 2.5. I don't know. It was such a nice break from reality, frankly, that I was just like, this is great.
Yeah. Just living on a cloud.
Any escape with Star Wars is a win.
Yeah. I was like, it's 2026 and this is great.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I was very happy. My girlfriend, she was super happy with it too. So
it's good to hear.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's good to
and
hear.
there were it was fun seeing a matinee too. So there were lots of families, and it was a holiday. So it was packed, lots of families, kids were loving it.
So what was the aroma like in your room? Like with your audience? Like, was there a lot of like noise, like, you know, in a good way, like audience reaction, or what was it like?
Yeah, there was a lot of positive regard. The Antillans, is that what they're called? Anzellans?
Oh, the Anzellans. Yeah.
Anzellans. Yeah. there was so much just joyful tittering every time they were doing what they do. You know, their speech is so funny, and that clip,
puppety.
Yeah, they're so puppety, and and just the you know, the entombing of the Mandalorian and the sliding in and out and head bonking and all that. I mean, the whole theater was just cracking up. So there was really good. I didn't hear any like, you know, gasps or anything like that. But
not even to the snake dragon.
No. Oh, actually, I was gasping. Yeah, so there probably was. Now that you mention it, I was like, oh,
your gasp was so loud, it covered everything else up.
Exactly. Yeah, that freaked me. I was like, nope. Nope. I was like, that's gonna get infected. That's not good. That's
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I gasped. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then there was a part when all the huts were rolling around.
Wrestling.
They're wrestling, right? I did let out a very loud what? Like that was me. I was the guy in the theater who went what?
Nice.
It's just not something you expect to see, right?
That's
huts
right.
like rolling around wrestling.
Yeah.
I feel like
very unexpected.
He's not the man his dad is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about that scene on our full review, and then we did bring up the fact that it's a challenging sequence to make it look really good because and they did a great job like with that whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean it's entertaining. It's funny and entertaining to watch, but it's not so like strange of a, you know, like action sequence that it takes you out of it. You know, seeing like two giant kind of blubbery creatures fighting like that, like it was
slug monsters.
Yeah, it's very convincing. I was like, this looks so good. Like
it's exactly how I pictured two giant slugs with arms rolling around.
That are buff, that are ripped.
Yes, one of them's ripped.
One of them's ripped. Yeah.
Oh man.
At first I was like, what? And they're like, okay, I'm down.
I imagine that they probably had to reference some sumo fights to, you know, get the physics just right. But
yeah.
Like,
my kids that watch Clone Wars, they're like, that's Stinky. That's so awesome. Like that's Stinky.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Stinky's now like trying to be his own man.
Man, it would have been so hard to do.
Stinky hit the gym.
Oh yeah. Stinky hit the gym.
Yeah. Well, and it gave me, I thought about it. I didn't realize he was going to be such a big player in the movie. I thought he'd have a much smaller part than he really did. So I was excited. I liked it. But it was kind of a callback to the EU also with that really buff Hutt, Beldorian the Hutt from Planet of Twilight by Barbara Hambly. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I mean, we've had a ripped Hutt in the past, and now we have one like legit on screen, you know?
So it's officially canon now.
It's canon now.
And it's even theatrical canon, which in the old school, that's G-level canon.
That's it.
Yeah. Right. G-level canon. Yeah.
Remember those days? Just so long ago now.
Oh man, the old hierarchy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, it was so good to get Mandalorian and Grogu in the theater. You know, seeing a Star Wars movie on the big screen.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we gave it some pretty positive review as well. I mean, I had a 1.5 Pablo point on my score, and Blake had 1. So like we're doing good and above good. So I mean, everyone thought it was pretty great. I mean, like we had a few 1.5s. I think honestly the lowest score that we had was a Bendu and a second Bendu. So we're not doing any lower than a Bendu. Which is pretty good. I think the general idea out there is like pretty positive, and like some of the critics though, like I mean IGN, I don't know what's up with them. They give the movie a 5.
Oh wow.
In my mind, I feel like a 5 is not the same as our Bendu. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Mathematically, they're the same.
Mathematically, I don't. Okay, so the way that most people look at a scale of 1 through 10 is 1 through like 1, 2, 3, and 4 tends to be just bad. If you get anything lower than like a 6, you're not looking so hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet with the way that our system works is like a Bendu is like, kind of like you're indifferent about it. Like you had a fun time.
neutral.
You're just neutral.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, cool. Like that was fine. You know, like I was like,
true.
you know, satisfied. But 5 doesn't exactly say satisfied when you like look at the critics. You know, like a 5 for them is like this wasn't good, right?
Oh man,
yeah.
Right. It's
which,
like
like-
they're marking on a curve.
Yeah, like whereas like
most of it's bad.
Right,
You gotta just be in the top what would be 30%.
yeah, like for us, a Bendu is like, yeah, it was still like, you know, solid. And then as soon as you go beyond that with the Pablo points, it's like, okay, 1 Pablo point, that's good. Like that was like really good. And then
Yeah, like, you
2
enjoyed
is
that, yeah.
great. Like 2 is, you know, really great. And then 3 is just like, that's like, you know, as good as it can be. So
Yeah.
I feel like our
Yeah.
scale is a bit more positive in the general.
It's true. And I
know.
do feel like we rarely go into poodoos.
We rarely do, yeah, because like it has to be pretty like that was like unenjoyable for me to give a poodoo, you know, like
I feel like
Yeah.
maybe the only thing that's gotten solid poodoos might have been the holiday special.
you know, weirdly enough.
Even that has a special place in my heart.
So like I'm looking on my chart. I mean, anyone can pull it up. It's on our podcast archives. Like in every podcast episode, there's a link for the in the description box for the podcast archives, and there's a tab on that document called rating system. So anyone can take a look at it. But
that's cool.
the most colorful show, of course, was the Acolyte, and that had scores kind of up the wazoo, like all over the place. Like where there's episodes ranging from 1.5 poodoos to 2 Pablo points, like with everything in between.
Wow.
Like
wow.
yeah, it's kind of an interesting
That's cool.
system. Yeah, so it just kind of showcases how much you dislike something or how much you do like something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm a big fan of the rating system. Credit goes to the Talkville podcast, Michael Rosenbaum's Talkville podcast. I kind of stole the idea from them. They do roses and bombs for their review system, and it's kind of the same thing. Like it's like a you know, both a positive and a negative kind of like, I don't know, it kind of works in this in the Star Wars, you know, there's a balance, right?
for sure.
The Bendu's the balance.
That's right.
The one in the middle. All right.
Anakin Skywalker.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's dive into this novel that we all read. All right, let's transition over here, shall we?
I didn't read the whole thing, but
That's all right. That's all right. Spoilers ahead.
As long as you don't mind,
Spoilers ahead.
spoilers.
no problem. No
Here they
problem.
come.
All right. So this novel is called Master of Evil. It came out only last year, November 11th, 2025, and the author is Adam Christopher. Adam Christopher has written a few things in the Star Wars galaxy. He is the author of End of Watch from a Certain Point of View, which was the 40th anniversary novel that rewrote A New Hope from all of these like background characters. Each chapter was a different background character in that movie. So he wrote one of those 40 stories that I guess factors in. There was a few Star Wars adventure comics, I think, that he wrote back in the 2017 series, but these came out in 2019. He was also involved in the Certain Point of View Empire Strikes Back, and then his first full Star Wars novel was Shadow of the Sith, which we actually reviewed on this podcast before. That's the one with Lando and Luke.
And the sea monster.
Yeah. And then he came back again to do a short story inside of the Return of the Jedi from a Certain Point of View, and then wrote this novel, Master of Evil. There was also a canceled novel that was an original Mandalorian book, which it's kind of funny that we're talking about the Mandalorian movie at the same time we're talking about this author, because he was going to be the only and the first author at the time to write an independent novel that would have been canon to the character and to the show, but it was actually canceled on March 9th, 2021. So this was a while ago that was like kind of news, but yeah, I guess I don't know why they canceled it. Maybe the plans with that character and the story changed. perhaps when they were trying to figure out what to do after season 1 or 2 or whatever that was. So yeah, kind of interesting. This book, it takes place basically, if you don't count the prologue, it follows up the events of Revenge of the Sith. Anakin is a brand new Sith Lord. This book actually overlaps a little bit with the events of the Darth Vader comic book series. So it also technically takes place in the same span of time as the Rise of the Red Blade Inquisitor novel. And the prologue takes place during the Clone Wars era. So the book is a little bit...
Do you have a rough timeline, like how many months or years after Revenge of this is, like more specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it just says after, like the publisher summary just says after Revenge of the Sith. So my guess is it's pretty close. Like it's, you know, pretty
I think
soon
so.
after. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Because Palpatine wants eyes on him, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like, what's he gonna do? What have I created? What?
Right.
Right.
You know, I need some eyes on this guy.
Yeah.
I've just set loose.
Yeah. He's just, you know, it's Frankenstein's monster. He like come back to life, right? Like it's like, hey, we got to watch this guy.
I think isn't there a reference of like how long like the temple ship or whatever was in space? Because it was like Dooku I thought it was like 2 years or something.
Yeah, something like that, right? Like what? Yeah, was it? It was like, it's weird, right? Because hyperspace is like a different dimension. So yeah, what was it?
I don't know, but the science is on that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was 2. I could be wrong though.
I think you might be right. Yeah, like it was something like that. But
how long was the Clone Wars?
3 years total.
3 years total. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does say that the book, having connected to the Charles Soule Darth Vader comic book series, does fill in a gap between issues 5 and 6. So if anyone's really familiar with the story between chapters 5 and 6 in that story, then that's generally when this book takes place. But I wouldn't take that literally, of course, because there's a few events that take place kind of in the Clone Wars as well. So kind of neat. Maybe, I don't know, like general, we can kind of give our general overview of what we thought of the book. And if we haven't finished it, kind of where it ended up.
Did you read any sort of like overall plot summary? So
sure.
To what we're talking about?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a good idea. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So, publisher summary. After Revenge of the Sith, a newly forged Darth Vader hunts for the secrets of life and death under the watchful eye of Emperor Palpatine. In the wake of Emperor Palpatine's rise to power, the true nature of his most sinister enforcer remains a mystery. Darth Vader is a dominant yet elusive figure, the shadow cast by a malignant Imperial regime, unknowable to even its top officials. I hope I'm saying that word correctly. But even as his humanity gives way to myth, Vader remains haunted by the promises of the dark side, seeking the ultimate power that his master has hinted at but withheld, the power to conquer death himself. On the volcanic world of Mustafar, Vader undertakes a dark ritual, bleeding a kyber crystal to forge his lightsaber. This act unleashes a power far greater than he anticipated, giving him a glimpse into the limitless potential of the Force. Vader is determined to follow this vision, even if it means defying his master's orders. Yet he finds the Emperor suspiciously supportive of his mission, even sending Vader to the Daisu system to investigate rumors of a Force-wielding shaman able to raise the dead. At his side are a bunch of the Emperor's scarlet-robed royal guards, led by Colonel Halland Goth, a decorated soldier with a very personal interest in Vader's mission. Even as the Emperor's true motivations reveal themselves, Vader falls deeper into obsession. His journey takes him across the galaxy, chasing rumors and phantoms, but no matter how far he travels, he cannot escape the shadows within his own soul. Haunted by the echoes of his past, Vader circles the true resolution to his quest. Only once all weakness is purged can he become a master of evil. So, maybe we can start with you, Steve. Did you end up finishing the book? And just generally speaking, like, how did you like it?
Yeah. I read this when it first came out, and I enjoyed it a whole lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. seeing Darth Vader sort of in his early days, and there's the part with him bleeding the kyber crystal and everything, but the story really he's there, but it focuses mostly on Halland Goth and his droid, and then we get some other characters on the sides that really come in later too. So it's mostly about them, and then Vader's just like there, and so I felt like there was some kind of a mismatch between how the book was marketed and then what the book actually is. I was going through some reviews people had written online, and there are a lot of people who were kind of grumpy and grouchy about how it's not from Vader's perspective all that much. I think it's like 58 chapters, and 4 of them are Vader's point of view.
Right.
So there were people grumpy about that. Now, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Fun, and also is kind of billed as a horror book as well. They had some kind of emphasis on it being spooky. I didn't find it that spooky myself, but I did think. But I mean, also I don't scare easy, so there's that. But that said, there are some really great disorienting segments in the book to do with this temple that Dooku hides in hyperspace on a ship, and it's a vergence in the Force, right? And sort of them getting lost in this maze of a vergence of a temple. Those sequences were a lot of fun, and that's sort of where I charted a lot of the spookiness, a lot of the horror elements of the book. But yeah, I was happy to take it for what it is, and I think it's a really fun book. I think it's definitely worth reading.
Yeah, nice. And just just out of curiosity, like, what's your history with Star Wars books? Like, have you read a whole lot of them, or?
Gosh, yeah, it's funny. Like, when I was a kid, I read a lot of them, and like the Han Solo adventures in the 80s by Brian Daley, and then the Lando Calrissian adventures as well, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, those books. But then I was 11 when Heir to the Empire came out, and it just dominated my middle school into high school reading. And I read all the Star Wars books that came out at that time. My copies of the Thrawn trilogy are signed by Timothy Zahn. They're important books to me.
Yeah.
So, but then I went through a phase, like I've read like nothing of the New Jedi Order. I don't think I've read any of that.
Like High Republic.
Oh,
no, I didn't read High Republic either.
You're talking about the New Jedi Order stuff. You're talking about like the EU books that they did, right? Like
the EU with the Yuzhen Vong and all that.
Yeah. There was a few. There was a few really long series that they did. There was like 3, right? There was like the New Jedi Order. There was the Legacy of the Jedi, I think, or Legacy of the Force series, and then there was like another series after that, which started with that novel called Outcast, and it went for also like 10 books or something. So there was a lot in that space. Yeah,
there was a lot, and my priorities were in different directions too. So I wasn't reading those as much. But then the last 10 years, I've read a fair number of the books that have come out. I've made space for them, and I've really enjoyed reading them. So that's kind of my relationship to the Star Wars book world.
Awesome. All right. Matt, what about you, man? Like where did you end up getting into this book so far? And how are you liking it?
I've been listening to the audiobook on Audible, and so far, like, the production of it has been fantastic. It's like one of the best ones that I've heard. And so far the story's been really good. It's been strong, and to have that horror element, and they use it like the sounds and the production design with the sounds is really well done, and guy sounds like Dooku. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was something I noticed too. Like the narrator, whoever does Dooku's voice, does a pretty good job.
It's pretty
There are
solid.
multiple voice actors. I heard a brief clip, and it was Amidala's. It was actually voiced by a voice actor.
Yeah, Catherine Tabor, who voices Padme from the Clone Wars, did a guest appearance for this audiobook.
Wow.
And she came and reprised her role. So that was really special. I don't know if they had that for all the other characters, but yeah, for hers in particular, they that was a good call, because I think it was only the last book review that we did that I was sharing about how jarring I find it when like a male narrator does like a female character's voice. I just can't stand it, man. It's like
I don't know if I've ever heard Leia's voice in audiobook form that hasn't just been butchered.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Like they just gotta outsource, you know, like they gotta bring in like another person and do that with those voices.
It goes a long way.
I used to listen to the Rogue Squadron books, the X-Wing Rogue Squadron books.
Oh, yeah.
He would also do the woman's voice. It was kind of like off-putting.
Oh, yeah.
He's getting paid to do that. That's pretty cool. he's making money doing that.
That's a good way to look at it.
That's true.
He's getting paid. I've been enjoying it. And it's been a really strong. Yeah, it's been a really strong book, and I'm totally digging it. Also, too, it made me think of like the prime of Vader, and then I'm listening to it at the same time I was watching the Darth Maul series, and then seeing that last episodes of Maul 9 and 10. Dude, Darth Vader was sick, and he was like at his prime. And I don't know, was this around like is this around the same time?
Yeah, you know, that's a great point to make, because this book would in theory overlap with that rough time period, because like we don't really know the full extent of the time between the start of Shadow Lord and the end of the Clone Wars, but it is pretty early on, because we do see those proto TK units, you know, showing up.
Right, yeah.
So we do know that it overlaps with like the Bad Batch season 2, and that show is like fairly linear with like how the story's paced, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a good chance that this book would kind of take place almost like, you know, border right up against that story.
Right. Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, that's where I'm at so far. And then for me too, reading Star Wars books, for me as Heir of the Empire just like changed my world as a kid.
Oh yeah. That's definitely that's like the novel that kickstarted the EU in so many ways. I mean, it's
we started it, yeah.
Crazy.
We didn't have anything. Like Return of the Jedi was over. They were saying that no more is going to be made. It was kind of depressing. And George Lucas is like, the technology is not there yet. There's no way we can do the next ones I want to do until like maybe another 10 years until we get more into CG stuff. And so I was just kind of depressed. Like, no more Star Wars, you know.
Yeah.
Then Air came out. Like, this is like a couple years later after, I think I've told this story. After Return of the Jedi came out, I was still wearing my Star Wars button, like on my shirt to school. And I was like made fun of because I still was wearing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Star Wars was last year. That was last year, man. Like, that was like, you know, Return of the Jedi came out last year. Why are you still wearing it? I'm like, because I love it.
Yeah, Matt was one of those fans keeping it alive.
Totally. I was too. I remember getting made fun of too. We would have been on the playground together being like, whatever. Like, we know what's what.
Oh man,
That's awesome. I love it.
I was I feel like in some ways I can relate, but it like differently, because I was the kid on the playground trying to give the prequels some good light, you know.
Sure.
Meanwhile, people are just totally taking big craps all over the new Star Wars movies, and I was like, hey, no, they're good.
They're good.
Yeah.
You take that back.
Yeah, but I like Jar Jar.
Yeah.
He's a Sith Lord.
Attack of the Clones is a good movie. Your negative reviews are holding it back.
There it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can feel the energy in that.
Yeah.
that was
Good, that's
amazing.
good.
Got to bring out.
Turn the Anakin on. Just
Turn on the Hayden. Yeah. Blake, what about you, man? What? How was this book for you?
I thoroughly enjoyed this book a lot, and you know that we have read quite a few of these Star Wars Disney novels since they've started coming out. I guess almost a decade ago now, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But especially because the same meat for me as you guys, the Heir to the Empire trilogy was like my peak, like Star Wars novel kind of tier, and I just felt like nothing has really gotten to that bar. Mm-hmm. Even the new Thrawn novels, which was really pointing for me. Yeah. And it's been an extra slump for a while now, and so this one just really stood out a lot. And I'm surprised that you mentioned that he actually had written the other novel, which I didn't enjoy as much.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So
yeah, I like this better than Secrets of the Sith, although that's a great book. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it was the same author because I enjoyed this so much more than that one. And to the point that you were actually saying, Steve, at least maybe more so with the reviews you're seeing online, I thought the fact that it wasn't from Vader's perspective was actually very beneficial, because my biggest worry going into this book is that it was going to be from Vader's perspective, and I've read books like that before, and it just never feels like they do Vader justice. It always makes him, I guess, feel like a little limp, because it takes away the villainous persona, and I feel like that is just so important to make Vader feel like a real villain, or else he just feels
it is true. I mean, I almost
watered down.
I rarely ever want a story to dive deep into Vader's mind, because the times that it does, and especially the chapters that this book does get into his head, it's super messed up. And like, I think that's the way it should be, like I don't need all his inner monologue, because he's not a normal person. He would like the outside world and other people around him don't perceive him as a normal person either. Like, they don't know what's back there behind the lens, right? Nobody does. And that's part of the mystery, but it's also like part of the creepy part about him, when he walks in the room, because you're thinking to yourself, like, is this guy even real? Like, is he like a person in there, or is he like he's more machine than man, right? Like, it's just one of those things. Yep. So yeah, that was something I appreciated about the book too.
What else would I go from? I think also a lot of the overlap with the Clone Wars stuff I thought was like super cool.
Yeah,
it's interesting, all this this new hyperspace technology that they have. That was cool, especially because it was Techno Union made.
Oh yeah,
and I feel like we just have like virtually no information on the Techno Union other than they made the B2 battle droids that just didn't really do anything else in the Clone Wars, which is a shame, because I always thought they were the coolest part of the Separatists. It was totally underutilized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of losing my thread, I guess, a bit, so I'll let you take over, Josh. But I enjoyed it quite a lot.
Okay, all right, awesome. So I mean, just in short, like, I really liked it too. Like, I thought it was a really like wonderfully written book about a villain, like, which is an incredibly difficult task, But I did write down a number of like Easter egg things, which I thought was really cool, and some talking points. So I'll just kind of dive right into that. The prologue, like you were saying, Blake, like, I mean, it is overlapping with the Clone Wars time period, so we do get a little insight as to what Dooku was up to, some of his shenanigans. And the prologue suggests that Palpatine would want the temple that's being excavated moved and reassembled somewhere else. And all I could think about was just how straight out of Star Wars Rebels that plot line is, because we've seen this happen before. Ezra came across like a Jedi temple on Lothal, and that thing was also excavated and moved onto Thrawn's Star Destroyer. And I was like, man, this is like just right out of the gate. I was like, this is so cool. Like, very, very continuity wise, it just made sense, even though it sounds ridiculous. Like, extracting an ancient temple and moving it onto a ship. Like, we've seen this before. It just felt like a classic Dave Filoni type Star Wars story, right? So I don't know. Yeah, but you guys enjoyed the prologue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It took me a second to think about what we were talking about. Yeah, it did make it just feel like it's sit into the Clone Wars, that whole timeline with everything going on, and which I really appreciated.
Yeah, it's I love it having a story where they can take. It's not like, well, this isn't happening just during the OG trilogy, or this is just the prequel trilogy, or this is the sequel, but this is bridging trilogies. I love sewing it together like that. And also the idea of this mission Dooku goes on and does this thing that doesn't get finished. You know, in a war like the Clone Wars, there are going to be tons of these situations where people are doing these things. It's also there's a little bit of Indiana Jones in there as well, you know, and the Nazis, you know, going off and doing their archaeological stuff with this temple, and then it gets parked in hyperspace with these hyper boys or whatever they are, and then just like the war ends and people kind of like forget about it, or you know, Dooku didn't have a chance to finish everything there.
Right.
That was pretty like that's a great idea. It's a great story idea. It's mysterious, and it's fun, and I thought all of that was great. I love the prologue.
Yeah, it was good stuff. The moments that are mentioned in the publisher summary are the moments that overlap directly with the comic books, but this is the Vader saber, like the Kyber crystal bleeding moment. That was really cool that we got more insight into that moment, because, you know, on the pages of the comic book, I mean, it looks so cool, like it's so visual, but it's also very short and you don't really get a whole lot of extra out of that scene. And, you know, being able to explore that in a book, it just gives you a bit more. It just gives you a bit more information, a bit more insight into the moment. And I really liked that about the book, that it kind of, you know, told it from a different angle. And that was really neat. The shaman plot line continues with Vader later in the story, and Vader seeks this guy out on the planet called Diso, which was, man, like there was some crazy stuff that happened there. Like the shaman channels almost like this essence of Padme, and it just stirs Vader up. Like
crazy.
That was insane. Like I was like, what is happening right now? Like
I love that. I loved it.
Yeah, like I mean, like Matt, you and I are both listening to the audiobook on this one, and like it was just getting some. I'm not easily creeped out or anything like that, but I definitely got some chills. I was like, "Ooh, this is like kind of interesting," you know, like kind of interesting here. Like, what did you think about it?
I'm totally. I mean, so far I'm still deep in it, so I'm loving it. I'm totally, I'm digging it 100%. And then I was kind of like, I didn't know that was kind of, they were going that direction, like kind of that horror kind of structure.
Yeah,
but
it works well though.
It's really well.
I've only done one other horror Star Wars book, and that was like the Death Troopers, and the audiobook for that was also. It's a good pairing. They should do it more often.
Yeah. One of the main characters in this novel, his name is Goth. He's a royal guard that is placed undercover to spy on Vader for Palpatine and for the ISB. Also, Blake, I think you got something going on over there. Some scratchy.
Yeah, I was scratching my nose. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Carry on.
Your mic is incredible.
Picking up everything. Yeah. So Goth has this droid that helps him like track down some information about like who Vader is. And there is a lot in this book about Goth trying to uncover who Vader is. It felt a bit like the Tarkin novel and the Thrawn novel in that sense. There's a bit of a repeating kind of essence, like that kind of storyline has repeated itself a few times. And I don't really know what to think about it, other than that's, you know, anyone who spends a lot of time around Vader would probably go through that kind of experience of like wanting to know who this person is. So
I think Thrawn goes through that too, right?
Yeah, like it was in the Thrawn book, it was in the Tarkin book, and I don't know. I just wanted to kind of throwing it out there to the room. Did anyone have any strong feelings on that?
I think it makes sense because Vader is just such a mysterious character. Like if you're in that universe, especially if you're someone with the Republic before it turned into the Empire, and then all of a sudden this Vader character just comes out of absolutely nowhere right at the end of the war, and he's super close to the Emperor. It raises a lot of questions.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and also just the nature of, leading a double life. You know, hiding who you really are, having a secret identity. Secrets get out. They. And part of that is people around sensing the secret, knowing something isn't quite right, needing to find out more. And also, the Empire is such a paranoid government that they're all, looking over their shoulders constantly. So they're all, it eats itself, right? Mm-hmm. And so part of and the Emperor tasks Halland Goth with, report back to me on what Vader's doing. It's built in, it's baked into the whole enterprise of the Empire. Right. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's probably something that, just happens constantly in that kind of power structure. Yeah. And having this, with Tarkin, with Thrawn, with Goth, we get to see different iterations of the same problem, the same stinking problem. That's my thought anyway.
Yeah. Another key character in this book is Goth's droid, as I just mentioned. His name is TC-99, and he's a protocol droid that serves as both a personal assistant and kind of a medical assistant as well, because it's not revealed until later that Goth has been fighting some medical issues. Which is ultimately a terminal situation. But this droid of his is he himself as a character, I think, could or would relate to Anakin in this way as well, because he's quite the tinkerer himself, and he's modified TC-99 in such a way that he's able to put programming chips inside of him on the fly, and it doesn't completely override himself, but it almost adds a certain level of skills to the protocol droid, to TC-99. So, if he needs to hack into a computer, he's got this chip for like a hacker droid or something that he can slide in, and so on and so forth.
They were actual matrices of previous droids. Yeah. It was actually loading a droid that had his own personality and previously, which I thought was really a neat concept.
It's almost like he's emulating the skills in kind of a contained environment, which is really cool.
You can also communicate with them internally.
Yeah. So I thought that was really sweet. I thought that might give a lot of people some cool ideas for, their Star Wars role-playing game coming out. That way you got every skill in the book.
It was also interesting how there was it's like a different willpower based on the type of droid that they were dealing with. Like the more advanced or militarization of the droid, the more challenging it was for him to not be taken over by that matrice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That'd be good role playing too.
Was it at the end of the book that they give him a commando droid matrice?
Yeah, he does have that for a while. Yeah. And then they make a deal with him, and he kind of takes over. And then 99 does come back for a long time.
Yeah,
Boxer, I think was his name.
Okay, yeah, that was.
Oh yeah, Boxer.
Until Sarnath takes over.
Yeah. I loved the whole Cybot Galactica aspect of it too, visiting Cybot Galactica and all that, because I've always wondered about where 3PO came from and where 3PO was constructed and all that, and so to go to the planet and then go to the corporation and see the people at the top of the tower who run this corporation. They're just a bunch of
they were totally whacked out.
They were I was like, this is so funny. Of course these people made 3PO, made those droids. It's like, I really enjoyed that part. That was, I think that was my favorite little, not really an Easter egg, but if 3PO is a Cybot Galactica droid, then I loved getting to see that finally.
Yeah, that was good. TC under 9.
There was actually just a neat side plot that went along with that.
Yeah, TC-99 is he's quite the detective on the side. Halland Goth is getting him to run some errands for him, investigating Vader, and TC-99 comes across a hologram of Vader's creation on the medical table, because there were droids in the room that would have seen this and recorded it to their memory banks. So I thought that was pretty sweet that they come across this footage, which should never have been seen. And it adds a little extra piece to the puzzle that Goth is trying to put together as to who Vader is, right?
Totally.
But that was a pretty bonkers moment that I liked a lot out of that.
And it was a neat filling in the blank of what happened to droids afterward. They would have known the transition. We don't really think about it, I guess, when you're watching the film, but like that technically would be a source of leak of information.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Goth, it also turns out, is in Revenge of the Sith. He is one of the royal guards that is in Palpatine's booth at the Opera House. And in the book, it dives further into the fact that he remembers this after he and TC-99 come to the conclusion that Vader is possibly Anakin Skywalker. He even hears the details of the chat about the power of holding back death, the conversation that takes place between Palpatine and Anakin right there in the chair. Goth is privy to that conversation because he is a royal guard. So it is very interesting. It doesn't say or mention that he is one of the royal guards that gets like slammed into the wall by Yoda. So I assume he had the night off.
Probably. Yeah. That would have been funny though.
Yeah. How convenient, to had the night off. But yeah. Oh, you're executing all the Jedi. Okay. Do you mind if I cash in a holiday?
Yeah. Little R&R.
Yeah. But I thought that was a cool little Easter egg, and also contributes to his, his inconclusive but pretty confident, conclusion that they're one and the same. We had some Clone Wars clones show up in this book. We had Sergeant Apo and a clone named Bo from the 501st appear. Sergeant Apo was very prominently featured in the Carnage of Krell storyline in the Clone Wars. He was one of Anakin's guys, like in the 501st, and he had some lines of dialogue, and that arc was very like clone focused. So Apo, he shows up again here and there, like kind of afterwards, but that was I think one of his more recognizable story arcs back in the TV show. So he shows up. I
do just want to quickly comment in on while we're talking about the clones here. I thought it was really neat finding out that all the regiments had been kind of like dissolved, and it was just spread out and with just random volunteers, so you couldn't really tell. It would be just like regular volunteers mixed with clones. Mm-hmm. And then Vader, through this book, he starts trying to put the 501st back together, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Yeah, it's like you can kind of see that happen. It's like the Bad Batch gave us a little bit of a window into that process of phasing out the clones in such a way. And it almost allowed some of them to just kind of go full AWOL, right? Like, I think it was Cody. He just straight up disappears. And there was like, a number of them that, it's almost like that transitionary period where, out with the old, in with the new. And, some people don't know what's going on. And, it allows a lot, systems changing. People can just kind of walk away or leave, or they get placed with a bunch of random volunteers. And, now you got a clone and a bunch of people, and they're all wearing the same suit, and it's kind of interesting, like how they dive into that in this book as well. There was something else I really liked. So when the temple and the ship is brought back into real space, the book describes this event as almost a release from what it once was in hyperspace, and basically it basically like paints the picture of like this is like a dimension in its own reality inside of another dimension, because like hyperspace is like a different dimension, but where this temple is stashed away, where Dooku hid it, is almost like a pocket dimension inside of hyperspace. It was kind of crazy. Like, it was very like science fiction-y, and I don't know. Did anyone here like really like have questions about that, or wonder? We've never seen that kind of thing before, I don't think. Like,
no, but it's one of those inventions that seems like once the Empire finds it, they will put to use. It's never shown up before, so it just raises questions for me in regards to that.
It kind of reminded me of the Mortis story arc in the Clone Wars. Like, Mortis is kind of like, it kind of exists in its own little space, because like they don't see it on the scanners at first, and then all of a sudden it's just there, and they get sucked out of hyperspace or something, like or they go to the wrong coordinates or something like that. Like, it's weird, right? And then they can never find it again. So it makes me wonder if like maybe Dooku, like, I don't know how he knows about how to access this part of hyperspace, but maybe he was onto something, right? Like maybe
Well, I think it was Techno Union technology, right?
Oh yeah, right. Like, I mean, maybe the Techno Union, like, right, like they stumbled across something that, you know, no one really knows. And yeah, but there's this connection to the I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but almost like to the myths and legends that exist out there, right? Because I think to the later part of the war, to the later part of the Clone Wars, I don't know where I read this or if it's in an episode, but I feel like at some point it's discussed between some of the characters that they don't know if what happened on Mortis was real. Like they're kind of like after the whole thing happens, like
it's like dreamlike.
Yeah, almost like did that really happen? Like was this all just in our heads? Because when they wake up, they're all on the ship and like as if they didn't go anywhere, right? Like the intercom is like, it's crazy. Like it's like this whole multi-day thing that happens in the span of you know, it's almost like a Narnia experience, right? Like they kind of stumbled through the wardrobe and lived a couple days in there, stumbled out, and it's like, wait, what? Like no time's gone by? Like what happened, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of crazy. It definitely reminded me of that a lot.
Yeah. There's definitely something. So, and you're right. It is like a science fiction thing, you know, a motif, and it feels new, but then it does have this correlation to Mortis and that experience as well. It's so interesting. It makes me wonder too if the Empire, now that they know about this, what else are they going to hide out there? And what else is left out there hiding? With those boys that they use.
Yeah, like the endless mysteries of the galaxy. It never ceases to end.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where Palpatine will hide some more clones.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you guys, but like I've always loved the whole prophecy of the chosen one part of Star Wars. Like I've always thought that was such a cool element. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like it just adds something extra fantasy about these movies, and like it brings the fantasy into those stories in a way that as much as the originals are great, there's no mention of the prophecy in the original trilogy at all. And it almost cements it in that fantasy genre in a way that maybe it didn't before. But this book was the first time that I'd ever seen Sidious use that prophecy of the chosen one against Anakin, as if mastering evil is the fulfilling of his purpose. And I kind of wish that Revenge of the Sith, the movie, like tapped into that a bit more, as to give some sort of extra reasoning, like it's just a bit of extra seasoning for his turn to the dark side, because the movie's portrayed in a way that it puts Padme at the front and center of that choice. And in a way it's like, okay, like he would do everything he can for the person he loves, but there's also this plot line that exists in the past two films that really emphasized his role, right, to the Jedi. So like for him to kind of break away from that is a huge deal, and he's grown up knowing who he is. Like people at the Order know who he is. He has a reputation. He's a prodigy. He's gifted. He's like so many things. And I do kind of wish that I really liked this book like that much, like for that particular reason, that I wish that it was rolled into the movie somehow, because it would have just added something extra. Did you guys like that part as well?
I don't remember the Palpatine part, but I know it comes up in the about him being the chosen one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also, you know, it shows a definite downside to having a reputation like that, to having a mythic, almost religious prophecy attached to you, because there will be people who respect that, but there will be people who want to use you for it as well. Right. Which obviously Palpatine is a user.
Yep.
And so it's kind of a perilous thing to have a prophecy like that attached to you. It's an extremely dangerous thing. And unfortunately he suffers the worst of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you like the vision that he has when he enters this temple? Like most of Vader's story in this book is really about finding this temple, which is also a vergence in the Force in itself. Like it's a some people might call it like a nexus, right? Like this thing is like a well of dark side energy. And Vader just kind of jumps head first into it, right? Like to kind of conquer the power inside. But yeah, what did you guys think of what transpired in there?
Oh yeah,
I enjoyed it quite a lot, and I'm actually hoping that you were able to get the timestamp that I shared with you, so we could actually just play it, because I thought this chapter was the coolest chapter in the whole book.
Yeah, sure. I'll grab it here in just this moment here. Like, Steve, what do you think about it?
Is this like chapter 52?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I just read the book, but I love also. I gotta say, I love all of like what Matt was speaking to, the production value going into audiobooks and all the rest of it. I mean, it's amazing what they're doing now. But yeah, I was like, Virgins of the Force, get to that part, and it was juicy, it was like, oh, here we are. We've got, Luke in the Cave of Evil on Dagobah. He experiences his experience in that Vergence. Here we have Vader experiencing a Vergence, and the Force is telling him things through symbolism and images and imagery and heightened everything. Some things about himself, some things about other people who are going to come along someday, roles reversed. I mean, it was very psychological.
Very it was. Actually, I found it more similar to Rey's experience with the Virgins than Luke's. Right down to the fact that she had to jump into a hole.
Yeah, true. And I like what you said about roles reversed, because there's like a backwards moment between Anakin and Obi-Wan and on Mustafar, and
that was so interesting. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to play the clip.
Yeah. Here, I'm not Matt. Am I spoiling anything for you? Have you gotten to this part of the book?
No, but I'm intrigued.
You gotta have first-hand opinion on this.
Yeah, you're gonna. Spoilers ahead. All right, here we go.
The very center of the ship, in the vast cargo bay, Vader stepped forward, his progress slowing as the energy of the Virgins coursed out of the temple. From the carved stone doorway came a kind of smoke, swirling in the wind. It darkened to purple, then to black. Dark energy crackling within its twisting tendrils. The wind died, and Vader stopped. He lowered his lightsaber. The blade angled across his body in a defensive stance. In front of him, standing in the temple doorway, was Darth Vader. It looked like him. It stood like him. Shoulders square, as immovable as the stone of the temple, as implacable as the darkness that seemed to swim around the cargo bay. The lights on the chest unit shone brightly, unlike the lights of Vader's own suit, which he had suppressed. And also, unlike Vader, the vision standing in the temple door was silent. The only sound of mechanized breathing echoing against the stones of the cargo bay coming from Vader himself.
I am the master here,
said Vader.
I am a dark lord of the Sith. The Force does my bidding.
He raised his lightsaber, pointing it at the vision of himself before him.
You have no power here. You are nothing. You are merely a vision of the dark side, a reflection of myself, spawned from my own mind.
Then the other spoke. His voice was Vader's, but it was distant and echoed, not around the cargo bay, but inside Vader's mind.
You have no power here,
said the voice.
There is power here.
Vader took a step forward. His lightsaber buzzed angrily in the freezing air.
You are the master here,
said the voice.
There is no master here.
Vader raised his lightsaber. Then, the voice changed. Gone was the booming echo. Gone was the deep, resonant bass. The new voice was hard and high, a sibilant whisper of an old man, his body twisted and scarred. The voice of his master, Darth Sidious. You are the chosen one, Lord Vader. You were born of the stars, the child of prophecy. You have brought balance to the Force, restoring the galaxy to its truth. Vader took another step closer. The dark side is the path to that truth. It lives through you, Lord Vader. It is your destiny, Darth Vader, master of evil. Darth Vader, the great unmaker.
All right, I'll pause it there. That's a good little preview there. That was a great production value, yeah, as you say, and that's the scene that recap.
They didn't even play the Padme part.
Nah,
Or the role reversal.
well, I mean that chapter, it like as I was saying earlier, it's like a 20-minute chapter. So
I don't think it's 20 minutes.
That's 52 of 54 chapters, right?
yeah,
There's more than that, I think.
Yeah, like on Spotify, it says it's like a 20-minute clip. So like it's yeah. But anyways, yeah, pretty good stuff. I mean, hopefully that 3 minutes there was long enough. But yeah, there's a good, like you just mentioned, there was like my final little thing here was that Padme asks Anakin, like, have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? And she says it in the way that Palpatine does, and it was just, I found it kind of like, you know, kind of like, like kind of creepy.
Yeah, I was excited to hear the audio part.
Yeah, that was
Scary.
That's a little ways. That's a little ways later in the
That's
clip. I don't know
scary.
where it is, but
This whole chapter is so interesting.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So for anyone who wants to dive down that rabbit hole, you know, chapter 52 on the audiobook, give it a listen. It's good stuff. Yeah.
Awesome.
Does
And
anyone?
it corresponds in the book too. It's 52 in the book too.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other Easter eggs to mention or points of conversation that you'd like to kind of dive into?
I mean, you already talked about the Forest Shaman, and I really love that. I thought that was cool. It's sort of this idea of an indigenous to a planet relationship to the Force, you know.
And powerful in the Force too. He was like causing like almost like a monsoon or a windstorm.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. I really liked that.
Yeah, that was neat.
And also, we should mention that also after he is taken by Vader, there's two other characters that were introduced with the shaman that then show up later in the book as kind of like pretty prominent side characters.
Yes.
And help Goth get to the ship in hyperspace in the first place. But they're out to try to get revenge on Vader for taking the shaman.
Yeah, it's his wife and child is the two characters. Yeah. So, yeah, pretty cool. Great story. And I you know, one last thing I'll mention about it is if anyone has played the Vader Immortal VR games, this story fits like a glove in the continuity of those stories as well. Like it endlessly Vader is pursuing this obsession with bringing Padme back. And I love how all of these stories coexist kind of in this time period between episode 3 and 4, where he's in this lost space, right? Like he's trying to figure out who he is as a villain. You know, he's trying to figure out as a villain who thinks that he's doing the right thing, but also having given himself so completely over to evil that he's lost the person that
But that's one point that really stood out to me because of that, because most of the that way, and that's really how we see Vader. There's flashes of Andy through.
Yes,
like when he helps the clone trooper after his robotic leg gets damaged.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's never
Like
fully
rebuilds his leg.
Yeah, he's never fully gone, right? Like that's kind of the point of his character, I guess, right? But I mean, at the same time, like he is actively denying that Anakin is alive, right? Like he's always trying to kill the good part inside of himself. And it's not until that Luke comes around that it's almost like he's able to let go of this obsession with bringing Padme back, because that storyline doesn't really go past the point of knowing that he has a son out there in the galaxy. Like once he knows, knows that, he is like on a new mission. His new mission is pursuing Luke Skywalker. But prior to that moment, he is endlessly pursuing this idea that he can use his powers and the dark side to bring Padme back to life, because that's the only thing that keeps him going, the only thing that keeps him alive in such a way. But yeah, very cool book. All right, we're going pretty late here, so let's give some Pablo points of poodles to this guy. All right, Blake, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I enjoyed this very thoroughly. I would give it a solid 2.5 Pablo points overall for overall Star Wars content. But if we're looking at only novels, I might even give this 3 in a novel only scale.
Wow. Okay. All right. I give it a 2.5 as well. And Steve, what'd you give this novel?
Well, I gotta just predicate it by saying I have my one act of civil disobedience as an author myself is that I always give books the top score if I've read them.
Nice.
Because I hate the algorithm, what it does, and all the rest of it. So I heartily say 3 Pablo points for Master of Evil by Adam Christopher. He's a great writer, and this is a great book. And I will add to it that I actually mean it.
Awesome. Okay. Sweet. So is that 2 3s?
It is.
All right. Great. Matt, where are you at so far with your Pablo points?
I'm at, especially after this, talking it over with you guys. I'm at a 2.5 as well.
All right. Great.
Awesome. I think it's a great book, and it's a great Star Wars book. There is a lot of garbage out there, and this is a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one stands out. It definitely deserves a recognition.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. Yeah, I would recommend this to folks to read.
You know, and that's saying something too, because like honestly, I would be giving it a 3 as well if I didn't know the luxury of Darth Plagueis, the book. But I mean that in my mind stands out as like the only 3 that I think I've ever given to a book. But
would this not get close to that? I feel like
this is
probably the best quality cloak, like as close to that as we have ever gotten in canon.
I think so. I mean, like other than because Dark Disciple is one of my favorite Star Wars books ever read, so I would say that's a 3 for me as well. But yeah, like as far as like especially the more recent like other Disney canon, Star Wars books, like Dark Disciple, that's the only one that really stood for me as a 3, and now we've got this one as well. So I mean, it's definitely up there. Like it's I highly recommend it. Anyone who is like likes Vader, likes, like kind of dark Star Wars stories. I mean, right. This is, it's got a lot of cool lore in there.
Prior to this too, because I used to read the Vader books from Dark Horse, like the Vader books and Dr. Aphra, and those are sick.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice to have something, like at that caliber again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys. That's, I guess that summarizes the review for tonight.
It's so nice to talk about books with people. Books. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, like, yeah, well,
no worries.
If you guys ever do a book review over on your show, and just remind everyone out there listening again, how can people find it, and where is it, and what's it called?
Oh yeah, it's called May the Force Be with Jung, as in Carl Jung. and it should be wherever the podcasts are. I vomited onto as many platforms as I could. So
amazing. All right. Well, who is there like a consistent co-host that you have? Because maybe we'll get you guys back for something for another book in the future. Seeing as you love Star Wars books so much.
It's just me. But me and Guess is the main idea.
All right.
So,
Gotcha. If you ever come across a guest that's reading a solid Star Wars book, let us know, and we'll do this again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. New Star Wars books coming this year. I think there's one that is about Leia training Rey, if I'm not mistaken, and it takes place between episodes 8 and 9. Yes, Star Wars Legacy. Thank you. That's what it's called.
Sorry to interrupt. Well, and there's another Darth Vader one coming out. I'm really excited about.
Oh, really? What's that one called?
Star Wars Icons, Darth Vader, $275 book. I don't know what the heck is going to be.
Yeah, what is this?
But it's coming out end of July. It was supposed to come out last November, and it kept getting pushed back. But it looks like hopefully July is sticking. And I've got it on pre-order. So it's a speaking of Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the one they did on Han Solo and the one they did on 3PO, and it's like everything about Vader.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah. Wow, I'm gonna.
But I don't know why it's so dang. I know it's like $275. I don't know why it's so
expensive. Crazy.
It's
for the Vader mold.
Is it like really big? Like, is this book like? Huge or something?
The Han Solo one is a large format hardcover. I don't know if this one. I don't know. Yeah, if it's wrapped in transparent steel or something. I don't know. But yeah,
probably just plasteel.
Yeah, just plasteel. Yeah.
That reminds me of so I bought the Star Wars Archives books by Tastron. I bought like the XXL versions, but they're written by Paul Duncan. They're amazing books. If you've ever, if you're looking for like a really nice way to look at behind the scenes, but in a way that's never been captured before, these books do it so well. And there's some beautiful double spread wide concept pages. They're so big. These things weigh a
don't
ton.
drop them on your foot.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Look at that.
yeah, between those two and the more recent ILM book that they did for their anniversary and the year by year visual history Star Wars book, I got all those lined up on my shelf. They're great books. So. For those of you liking the reference books out there, you can take Steve's recommendation. Take a look at Star Wars Icons, Darth Vader. That looks pretty cool. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Great. I think that pretty much wraps us up for the evening. So without further ado, we'll say our farewell. So Matt, first off, thank you for coming back on, and all the best in finishing this novel, and apologies for spoiling it for you.
No, it was fun. No, thank you. Spoilers don't bother me.
All right, cool.
Yeah, congratulations. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, there it is. Well, hold on. Let's take a listen to that one more time.
Yeah.
There you go. All right,
Definitely deserved to win that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Steve, of course, for coming back on. This is now the third time we've had you on, and it's always a pleasure, man. So we'll see you in the future.
Thank you so much. Love being here.
Amazing. And thank you to our co-host, as always, Blake, sir. It's a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure.
All right.
We'll see you out there. Keep flying.
All right. A big thank you to our audience for tuning in. Hopefully you check this novel out if you haven't already. There's still lots more to explore if you read it for yourself or listen to it for yourself. Either way, it's one heck of a good Star Wars story to dive headfirst into. And definitely check out those links in the description box below. Check out Steve's podcast. And there's links for many things down there. So we'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you.